Okay, salamat po. So, Commissioner Masada, just to return to you quickly, earlier, nung pinakita po natin ang ownership structure, parang ang naging conclusion ninyo dun sa diagram na yon, tama ba ako na sinabi ninyo, essentially, dalawa lang talaga ang individuals ang may-ari ng NGCP. In a gist, tama ba yon?
Well, plus China po, the state grid of China.
So which proviso allows?
The proviso in Section 7 says that the prohibition does not apply to any stockholder if such relative is any stockholder, director, officer of the grantee, if there is no employment, consultancy, fiduciary, and so on. Plus, if the share ownership is not more than 1% of the total outstanding shares, then that can be part of that's no longer covered by the prohibition. So naglagay na po ng mga exceptions in that absolute prohibition in EPIDA.
So for example, if 1% ka lang sa NGCP, okay lang.
1% po dun sa 1% po dun sa industry player. So may shares ka sa NGCP, tapos meron kang up to 1% in a listed industry player, allowed.
Then you're allowed. So, but
plus there are other exceptions.
okay, so but my question is, have you, because there are possible, right? Just looking at the names, tama ba ako?
Well,
I mean, there are obvious possibilities, right? So have you looked into those?
not yet, Mr. Chair. Compliance with this.
Yes, so yun ang tanong ko. Kasi kayo po ang regulator, tama ba ako? Maliwanag sa concessionaire agreement, kayo po ang regulator. Kayo din po ang administrative agency sa ilalim ng PSA as amended. So kayo ang titingin ng mga paglabag. Tama?
Tama po.
So, kaya po kayo tinatanong.
Yes. Wala pa pong ganung analysis, Mr. Chair, but definitely that is part of
Sige po,
what
so
we
sa
should
susunod
review.
po na hearing, kung pwede po,
Sige
yan na lang po ibaon ninyo na information. Yan po ang isasubmit po ninyo na dagdag na report.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, other than the specifics of the provision, Mr. Chair, I think behind the spirit of the provision is to disperse ownership, in order to avoid parang mga anti-competitive behavior. And if you have that structure, this is, I'd like to remind lang the body na yung structure na to before pa to ng swapping, ng kung ano man arrangements nila. So ngayong today, there should be a different structure already, especially on the third level ba yun? Or the upper level, no? So ang objective is, there are two limitations. There's a limitation on the cross-ownership side na dapat you don't engage if you're affiliated already. And then the other one is the public offering, Mr. Chair. And seeing the structure, it's a very dangerous situation kasi it's a monopoly, and it can dictate so many moving parts in the energy industry. So I don't know if the objective is, with all the anong tawag ni Congressman, the corporate gymnastics that they have done, I don't know if it supports the spirit of this provision, Madam Chair.
I hope that would be included in your report. Mr. Chair, can we now look into the financials of NGCP? So you started operating
Proceed.
in 2009. From then up to 2023, your total cash dividends is about 242 billion. Is that correct? 242.8 billion. NGCP, anyone who has the financial statements? Or let's start with revenues. Total revenues, 702.5 billion from the time you operated in 2009 up to 2023?
Your Honor, may we know whether the figures are being that you were
From the audited financial
from the
statements.
AFS?
Yes.
And the date of that
From
AFS?
2009, 39.5 billion, 2010, 43.8 billion, 2011, 45.6 billion, 2012, 44.5 billion, 2013, 44.5, 2014, 45.19, 2015, 45.7, 2016, 45.3, 2017, 45.4, 2018, 45.4, 2019, 45.3, 2020, 48.6, 2021, 48.6, 2022, 61.8, 2023, 53.
Your Honor, thank you for that enumeration. Right now, Your Honor, we do not have a copy with us of the AFS, but
More or less, what do you know? What number do you know, total revenues? Last year, for example, 2023 full year, would you know that?
I do not have information, Mr. Chair.
Does anybody?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair. The audited financial statements are submitted regularly to Transco, and maybe Transco can
Transco?
report to you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can we please ask Transco?
Those recognized.
If they can provide us with the financials of NGCP.
Can you give us a few 1 minute? We just
Revenues, net
get the
income,
numbers.
dividends.
For the dividends given by NGCP
Mr. Chair, let's start na lang with revenues, sir.
with the
Pwede ba natin umpisahan sa revenues?
for the gross revenue starting 2009.
Meron po ba kayong kahit aggregate na lang?
Aggregate po is
From the time
704 billion point 29. Net income is 330.17 billion. And cash dividend is 242.839 billion.
Okay, salamat po. So, Commissioner Masada, just to return to you quickly, earlier, nung pinakita po natin ang ownership structure, parang ang naging conclusion ninyo dun sa diagram na yon, tama ba ako na sinabi ninyo, essentially, dalawa lang talaga ang individuals ang may-ari ng NGCP. In a gist, tama ba yon?
Well, plus China po, the state grid of China. So if you look at the structure, I think we need to look at the detailed structure of these participating entities. Tatlong levels po kasi yan eh. But if you look at the two major shareholders there, Henry C. Cuyuto, you look at Monte Oro, Pacifica, and you look at the share swap with Synergy, makita nyo po na may interlocking owners no, or shareholders. So, sila lang ba yung players dito? Definitely hindi po. May mga iba pa namang shares na hindi accounted for nitong dalawang major shareholders ng NGCP. But
Pero in a major way, ang sinasabi po nyo, pretty much, itong 242 billion, in a big way, ay napunta sa dalawang major shareholders.
yes, plus state grid of China.
Plus yung Chinese
Opo.
group. So
Opo.
yun yung tatlong entities, yung dalawang individuals and the Chinese group.
Yes, Chair.
So yung 242 billion na yun, napunta doon sa tatlong entities na yun, dalawang Filipino individuals at yung Chinese group.
Yes, Chair. Being the principal shareholders.
So yun ang ibig natin sabihin na may problema tayo na hindi dispersed ang ownership.
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Salamat po. So, yun ang bottom line, di ba, Mr. Chair. Wait. Last na lang po, Mr. Chair.
You have the floor. You waited for 4 hours.
I know. Kaya nalilito na ako sa dami ng nilista ko po. Actually, Mr. Chair, parang kanina ko pa pinapakinggan ang DOE, ERC, pinapanood ko po ang dynamics. Nakakapagtaka kasi sila naman ang regulator, hindi po ba? So, actually, yun ang sa akin ang, pasensya na po so yun ang aking big question mark. Parang, kung kayo ang regulator, at alam na alam po ninyo na ito ang mga delays in all of these projects, at na-frustrate po kayo, kasi alam na alam po ninyo, halimbawa ni Yusek Sharon, nabilib po ako na pagdating dun sa golf course sa Cebu, ay ang kailangan lang pala palitan ng location ng mga holes dun sa golf course. Ibig sabihin, alam na alam nila mga problema. Pero, gayon pa man, parang hirap sila na to put a handle on the problems. So yun ang tanong ko, pero maliwanag na maliwanag sa concessionaire agreement na kayo ang regulator, di ba? And more importantly, babalik tayo sa Constitution. Parang sa akin simple lang kasi Article 12, Section 2, may babasahin lang po ako na one sentence. The exploration, development, and utilization of natural resources shall be under the full control and supervision of the state. Parang, doon pa lang, parang, ang laki na ng problema natin. Kasi kanina, ang dami pong lumabas na mga documents na klarong-klaro na ang control ng mga very sensitive na processes ay wala po sa kamay ng Pilipino. So yun ang mga tanong, bakit nangyayari ito? Bakit natin pinapayagan? Bakit ang ating regulator ay hinahayaan na mangyari ang mga ganito? Klaro naman po sa ating Constitution. Tapos ang ating NGCP, ang palusot is, nangyari yan noong 2014. 10 years ago, hindi ko alam ang document na yan. Wala na yung tao na yan, si Mr. Wanbo. Hindi yun kasi maliwanag sa Constitution na dapat may full control and supervision ang Estado. So, yun ang malaking tanong. So, siguro, ERC lang ang pwedeng sumagot. Ma'am, Chair muna.
Chair muna.
Mr. Chair, and
You
then
can,
I think
that was,
Yusek Sharon also
No, I think,
wants to-
Chair muna, this is a issue of regulation, and you're the sole agency for this.
Yes.
Please
Mr. Chair,
answer the question.
We really have that obligation, and
Please,
sorry. We cannot deny that obligation rests on us, on the ERC, and that's why when I think 3 months into the job, in 2022, that's among the first things that I did as the new chair was really to commence the reset of NGCP. And since then to this day, we have for the first time penalized also the delays of NGCP for those 34 projects. For the first time also enforced the show cause orders on NGCP for their failure to comply with DOE directives since December 2019. So I think on the enforcement side, we are doing our share. We're doing a lot of catch up. But definitely, since 2022 to this day, it's very challenging to catch up for more than a decade of delays in projects, issues on enforcement. But for this time around, we are committed to really do our part, to really do our role as you have put it, as the sole regulator of the transmission concessionaire. But Mr. Chair, I cannot answer for the past. I can only commit and comment on what we are doing today and what we have been doing since 2022, since August 2022.
Pero, Chair,
yes,
nagulat po
Honorable
ako na yung kahit na yung simpleng cross-ownership, pasensya na po ha, I mean, these are basic, di ba? Cross-ownership, ownership, control. Yun lang naman ang basic elements ng ating franchise agreement. Hindi po ba dapat naman po maging compliant naman po kayo kasi may reportorial requirement sa Kongreso taon-taon. Hindi po ba dapat seryosohin naman po ang nire-report sa Kongreso? So, yun lang po. So sana naman sa pagbalik po ninyo ay sana magkaroon kayo ng mas masusing report po sa amin bilang regulator po. And huli na lang po.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if, with your indulgence,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, on the
Yusek
question.
Garin.
I totally agree with the question because your first question when you interpolated was like who is NGCP? It's actually a subcontractor of the government, and it should be under the control and direction of the government, thereby with DOE and ERC as a regulator. Historically, there has been, we've researched this actually, what happened in the past and all the communications. For example, Mr. Chair, we have issued policies on the audit or the evaluation of creating an audit committee of the performance of NGCP. And NGCP has objected to our authority in issuing the policies. In fact, we, in place when Secretary Lutilla took office, yeah, I can't remember the exact name, the evaluation committee, performance assessment committee, in which NGCP should be part of it, and it's still not moving because they're not willing to participate because they have so many objections. And you have three things that are the basis of this, which is the concession agreement, the franchise, and the EPIRA. Now, if you go to the franchise, that's for Congress to determine, and the franchise actually just puts the regulatory on ERC, and that's one of the reasons in the communications of NGCP that we do not have the authority to check on their performance. And on the other hand, if we go to the concession agreement, then they will go to that will prolong the agony because they will bring us to arbitration, in which they already have an arbitration case that has been going on for, I think, decades already. So DOE and ERC are tied with these limitations. Kahit nga if you remember the penalty that was imposed by ERC on the delayed projects is about 15.8 million. That is very minimal, Mr. Chair. So there are provisions in the law that limits the authority also of the DOE and ERC. Of course, that does not eradicate the fact that there are lapses also. So we have been trying. In fact, we have proposed that the issuance of an executive order in which projects that are NGCP is unable to deliver on time should be a government or a third party can be allowed to construct it and then go through, turn it over to NGCP, and cost recovery will be regulated by ERC. That has been objected to also by NGCP. So if we
Invoking the exclusive financing.
the exclusivity of the franchise. So we are tied with all these legal matters but we have appealed, and we have that it is for the sake.
Which, Mr. Chair, by the way, hindi naman exclusive financing because marami naman na power plants na nagpa-finance ng sarili nilang connection to the grid. Tama ba ako?
Okay, correct.
Oh, so in which case, kung pinapayagan nila yon, parte naman yun ng transmission. Tama ba ako?
Our opinion is it becomes part of the transmission
It is,
once
right?
it is.
Because that's already transmission. So kung pinapayagan nila yon, dapat nilang payagan din yung sinasabi po ni Yusek Sharon.
There's objection to that in institutionalizing the concept. Once you institutionalize, it will be regulated, and the agreements will be, approved and transparent. And that I'm not sure what the reason is in objecting to that concept, but that is the idea that DOE and along with DRC wanted to pursue. No, na we would know the standards. Why are some projects acceptable and why are some not? So we've tried various mechanisms, but yes, there are limitations, and we don't want.
Negotiated? Can the CA be renegotiated? The concessionaire agreement?
I think that PISAM would be in the position to answer that. It is an agreement between Transco,
Can you also
PISAM.
ask legal of PISAM and submit to us a position paper?
It can be, I think, a renegotiation would be among the parties as private parties, let's say. But once there is an objection on any terms of the contract, you have to go for arbitration in Singapore.
Costly. Last promise, last question. Obviously, at a certain point, Mr. Chair, matatapos din ang franchise agreement ng NGCP either peacefully or non-peacefully. Tanong kay Yusek Sharon, pasensya na ha, necessarily ba kailangan maging monopoly ang transmission of electricity? Ibig sabihin, kailangan ba isa lang ang concessionaire? Kasi talaga naman isa lang ang highway, di ba? Isa lang naman talaga ang grid. Pero hindi ba pwedeng Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, separate concessionaires? Pwede ba yon? Di ba technologically possible ba yon? Posible, di ba?
Yes.
Kasi sabi ni Sir kanina, 3 buttons. Oh, why can't we have 3 separate concessionaire agreements so that you can benchmark performance? In the same way that we have 2 water agreements, in which case nakakapag-benchmark tayo ng performance. Hindi ba pwede yon? Hindi naman necessarily dapat natural monopoly yan, di ba?
Mr. Chair, you can even go further, no? You can divide it by the 3 regions, and in fact, it more or
It can
less
be
exists
even
because we
smaller.
have off-grid and on-grid, no?
That
So
was-
may mga
That was
grid
actually the point of my question
grid operators.
earlier, kung bakit ba natural monopoly yan?
And also,
Ang taas-taas ng presyo, ibig sabihin, may problema siya. Kasi kung totoong natural monopoly siya, tunay na mura siya. So kung tignan natin at hindi siya tunay na mura, may problema. Ibig sabihin, hindi talaga siya natural monopoly and therefore, isubject na natin siya to yardstick competition. Hindi naman necessarily competition in a true sense na parang Wesham. Hindi. Pwede naman yardstick competition eh. Iputol-putol mo yung regions. We can subject them to competition in the same way that we're doing yardstick competition for water. So, yun lang po, Mr. Chair. I mean, but
Mr. Chair, just to add, also, you can also look at it in the perspective of what are the functions of a transmission company. So there's a systems operator and the transmission assets that you can also divide. No? So there are ways to look at it, and well, it depends on the studies, but there might be a more suitable arrangement for our country, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
salamat, Mr. Chair.
Very much, Senior Vice Chair of APRO, the Honorable Stella Kimbo.
Yo, what's up mga tropa pips? So nakita nyo naman po dyan sa hearing ng ating Kongreso na meron na pong monopolyo ang mga Tsekwa dyan po sa ating NGCP. Hindi na nga natin matatawag na ating NGCP yan, National Grid Corporation of the Philippines, pero Tsekwa po ang chairman, Tsekwa ang nagpapalakad, at may connection pa po ito sa CCP. Naku po, talaga palang hindi po kayang ibaba ang presyo ng kuryente hanggat meron pong monopolyo ang mga Tsekwa dyan. Yan po ang ginagawa nitong si Rodante Marcoleta patungkol po sa napakataas daw po na presyo ng kuryente. Paano nga hindi tataas? 6 na taon naging presidente si Digong na isang pro-Tsekwa. Hindi man lang sinilip ni Digong itong problema na ito sa NGCP. Kasi nga pro-Tsekwa siya. Tsekwa ang chairman. O syempre, kampi siya dyan. Tsekwa yan eh. Si Digong, basta Tsekwa, lumuluhod, umaamin, hindi kumukontra. Kaya ito, dapat nasolusyonan na noong panahon ni Digong panahon ni Pinoy pero hindi nga po nangyari dahil nga po wala silang ginawang pagkilos at hinayaan lamang po nila ang pagmomonopolyo, ang pagsakop, pagkontrol ng mga Tsekwa dito sa National Grid Corporation of the Philippines. Sisi tayo ng sisi sa Meralco. Sabi tayo ng sabi, problema ang kuryente sa mahal at Meralco ang sinisisi ng ating mga kababayan. Kami dito sa Cavite, mahal ng kuryente namin. Isang bahay, 5,000 sa buwan. Ganun po kamahal. Pero alam niyo po, doon sa Malaysia, naka-aircon kami, walang patayan, kahit pumunta kami ng mall, mamalengke, mamasyal, hindi namin pinapatay ang aircon. Isang studio type ang aming inuupahan. Walang patayan ng aircon. Tapos, meron kaming rep, meron kaming TV, induction cooker, bawal ang gasol. Tapos, ang aming initan ng tubig de kuryente. Ultimo nga mga sapin ng sopa, mga sapin, mga kumot, pinaplantya na ng asawa ko. Alam niyo kung magkano binabayaran namin sa kuryente? 100 ringgit lang. Hindi kami umabot ng 200. Hindi kami umabot ng 150. Pinakamalaki na naming nabayaran parang 119 or 120. Magkano lang yun? Nasa 1,300 pesos lang po yun. Meron pa kaming yung heat shower ba yun? Yung sa shower may mainit. May washing pa kami. Alam niyo po, napakamura ng kuryente sa Malaysia. Bakit hindi natin kayang gawin dito sa Pilipinas yun? Kasi nga po, private company ang may hawak. Siguro, tanggalin na lang yung NGCP. I-take over na ng gobyerno yan. Hindi ba pwede yan? Alay, pahirap sa taong bayan. Bayad tayo ng bayad sa mga proyekto na hindi natatapos, hindi nagagawa, ni hindi man lang nakikita kahit isang anino. Pero nabayaran na natin. Ano ba inuuna ng NGCP? Kita ng mga shareholder. Kita ng mga nag-invest. Sino mga nag-invest karamihan? Tsekwa. Paano nga tayo magkakaroon ng murang kuryente kung ganyan ang sitwasyon? Di ba po? So, sana talaga masolusyonan to, itong napakamahal po na kuryente. Buti na lang talaga at kumikilos po ang ating Kongreso. Iniimbestigahan itong problema na ito na talaga pong malaking pasakit sa mga Pilipino. So, yun lamang po. Maraming salamat sa pagsama nyo dito sa aking vlog na ito. Ingat po kayo. Nasaan mang panig kayo ng mundo. Muamua, chup chup, love you, love you. God bless us all, Pilipinas. God first.